In the Catalina foothills, just outside of Tucson, Arizona, 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie lives alone. But she does have family nearby. Her daughter Annie and her husband live about 10 minutes away. Nancy's other daughter is Savannah Guthrie, host of the Today Show and former Court TV correspondent. On Saturday, January 31st, she was dropped off at her home by her son-in-law at about 9:45 at night. Between that time and Sunday morning, when she was supposed to go to church, something terrible happened inside her home. Nancy's family was alerted by folks at church that Nancy did not attend the service. Then when the family went to Nancy's home, they couldn't find her and called police. Almost immediately, it was clear to investigators that a crime had been committed, that Nancy had been taken forcefully from her home. Blood was found outside the front door. So while this began as a missing persons search, the homicide squad was quickly brought in to work the case. Meanwhile, Savannah and the rest of Nancy's family are asking for tips. They're asking for help. They're asking for prayers. Tonight, all the latest information that's been released by law enforcement. We are live from Tucson as the search for Nancy Guthrie continues. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Another night, and still Nancy Guthrie has not been found, has not come home. This is such an unusual story. Never come across one quite like this before. Kidnappings, abductions are somewhat rare. The abductions that we're used to seeing are, predators going after children or women out jogging. We've seen that. We've never seen anything quite like this, where an 84-year-old is taken from inside her own home in the middle of the night. And what makes it even more unusual, we have these multiple ransom letters and the stories behind them being sent to media companies. And are they legit? Are they not legit? It's not really clear at this moment. So while this could have been a kidnapping for money with a ransom letter, it may not have been. It's just not clear. Really strange that we're this far into, we're 5 days into this, and it's still, we still don't know what we're dealing with here. Still don't know. What we do know is this family, this is a broken family. And we saw the siblings, Savannah, her sister, and her brother, sitting there and pouring their hearts out. You look at them, like, they haven't slept. They haven't slept a moment since this happened. As heartbreaking this is for people who are associated with them, I mean, for the family, this is torture that they're going through. And there was one thing that Savannah said that really struck me. We're talking here about an 84-year-old victim, her mom, who needs her medication, but is also living in pain. And in day 5 now, without that medication, what level of pain is she feeling? Physically, mentally, and emotionally. So things are developing in this story. The latest is that Cameron Guthrie, who is Nancy's son, Savannah's brother, has put out another video on behalf of the family. And again, this is very, very telling when you get back to the unusual part of this case involving these ransom letters. Let's take a listen.
This is Cameron Guthrie. I'm speaking for the Guthrie family. Whoever is out there holding our mother, we want to hear from you. We haven't heard anything directly. We need you to reach out, and we need a way to communicate with you so we can move forward. But first, we have to know that you have our mom. We want to talk to you, and we are waiting for contact.
They're waiting. Could you imagine what that's like? But on the other hand, when you put the pieces of all of this together, that there were deadlines that were set by this ransom note, but the family's sitting there saying, how can we meet a deadline if no one is contacting us? Again, this is an unusual case, an unusual story, an unusual mystery. Is the ransom letter legit or not? Who are these people? Who did this? Why did they do that? We don't know. We don't know. We do know a little bit more, though, about what happened, as the Sheriff, Chris Nanos from Pima County, spoke again today, and today got a little more specific about what happened and when it happened. Let's take a listen.
5:32 p.m., Nancy travels to her local family's home for dinner and playing games with the family, just visiting. At 9:48 p.m., which is very consistent to what we were told by the family, that Nancy was dropped off at home, and we know that because we have a garage door open at approximately, I can't stress that enough, at approximately 9:48 p.m. At 9:50 p.m., that garage door closes, which is that time we assume that Nancy's home and probably going to bed. Sunday morning, early morning, at 1:47 a.m., the doorbell camera disconnects. At 2:12 a.m., software detects a person on a camera, but there's no video available. They had no subscription, and therefore it would rewrite itself, it just kind of loops, right, and covers up. That's what our analysis teams have told us. We're not done with that. We'll do all we can, but that's what it says. So that detects a person on camera. Could that be an animal? I imagine that's possible. We don't know that. We just have no video. But we're not giving up on that. 2:28, Nancy's pacemaker app shows that it was a disconnect from the phone. And at 11:56 a.m., the family checks on Nancy and discovers her missing. And at 12:03 p.m., 911 is called in to the Pima County Sheriff's Department. I believe it's about approximately 10 minutes later, 12 minutes later, our patrol teams arrive. They see the scene, and we start our response with our search and rescue teams and our detectives from homicide and various units.
Okay, so we've got much more detailed than it was before and a little more precise about the time of some of the things that they do know and things that they are okay with making public at this point. Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight, criminal defense attorney, legal analyst Carmen Rowe is with us. Also joining us, criminal defense attorney and lawyer Lori on TikTok, Lori Murray. And finally, attorney Ali Benevento. Great to see everyone. Thanks for being here. Let's start first with the video that was released by the brother, by the son, Cameron Guthrie. Carmen, it seems that we look at this note, the family's waiting to hear something. The family has heard nothing. They've heard zero. Does that tell you anything tonight here on day 5 of all of this?
You know, Vinnie, I don't know what it tells us in as much as this whole thing is so unusual and bizarre. But obviously the family, law enforcement's reaching out because the family's going to make the decision about whether to pay the ransom. And at this point, they're basically suggesting that if you don't reach out to me, we're not going to pay the ransom, and that we're at a little bit of a stalemate. And so I think they're hopeful that they're going to actually get some contact, because at this point, what it does mean for this family, who, as you said, are just, you know, in terrible pain, wondering what's going on. They have no information about Savannah's mother at this point at all. And that's got to be incredibly heartbreaking and frustrating. So any information is better than none, which is what they have, which you can just imagine what their minds are thinking might be going on when you know nothing.
Yeah. You know, looking at what we do know here, Lori, what happened that night, she takes an Uber to her daughter's house, and then she's dropped back off by the family, you know, just before 10 o'clock, garage door opens, garage door closes. And then there's nothing until something happens with the doorbell camera. A lot of people are saying, okay, you know, you've got to investigate the people closest, so you begin with the last known people with her. The other part where they come into this timeline is that at 11:56 is when they go to the house to check on Mom, on Nancy, and almost immediately they call police. So it seems that they did not hesitate to call police, and it seems that the scene as they saw it told them, we need police here because she is nowhere to be found.
Well, yeah, I think that what they must have seen when they walked in the door was something that absolutely looked like a crime scene. There must have been, you know, things in disarray. Obviously, I think we know now that there were blood spots, blood droplets on the front steps. So I think they must have known that this was a crime scene. So they called police immediately. And, you know, to the point about this last with the ransom and not paying the ransom, you know, anybody could have sent that ransom note, and anybody could be setting up a Bitcoin account that you can't retrieve the money back from. So why would she pay that money? You can't pay that money without some proof of life and some proof that you're actually the real person that took her. I know that there was supposed to be something in the note that said, you know, that referenced something that was broken during the break-in. So that's a little bit, but it's not good enough. They need to see that Nancy is still alive and that they will be getting her back. This family is devastated, and I don't blame them one bit. I know some people will think that it's reckless not to pay this man, but I don't blame them one bit. They need to know that she's still alive, and they need to know she's coming home.
Yeah, and they haven't been contacted either. The contact came to Scripps, which is our parent company. It went to TMZ. It went to another local station out there. So the actual victims, the family, has never been directly contacted. Allie, what does that tell you about what's going on here?
Well, exactly, Vinnie. They don't even know to whom they're supposed to be making this payment, who's making these demands. And unfortunately for this poor family, it seems like someone is playing games. They're not contacting the family directly, and yet they seem to want all of this media attention. My heart goes out to this family. I mean, I don't know about you all, but Savannah and Craig are a part of my morning routine every day. And I think that part of the reason why this has captivated so much attention is that we feel like Savannah is family. You know, we invite her into our home and we see her day in and day out. And so in a lot of ways, Nancy is everybody's mom. She's everybody's grandmother. And so I think that, you know, I hope that this family gets some type of information, some type of closure. I cannot possibly imagine what they're going through. I am happy that there is so much attention on this case, obviously because of Savannah and because we feel this connection to her, whether that's real or imagined. But yeah, to your point, they don't even know who to pay. Who is doing this? Who's sending this? Was that actually the person that was involved in Nancy's disappearance? I hope that this family gets some answers. This is absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah, Carmen, I am still, you know, it's 2026. There's cameras, there's digital, there's all these different ways that we see day in and day out that people get killed. And here, are you surprised that we're sitting here on Thursday night and still really no idea of what happened here? Like, it's not even really confirmed that this is a kidnapping ransom case.
You know, Vinnie, on the one hand, yes. But on the other hand, no. I think that the isolated area within which she apparently lives makes it more difficult. But, you know, I often think, and I'm troubled to believe that it's true, that the government just doesn't have the kind of technological savvy that some of these hackers and things do. I mean, I think people are capable of getting away with a lot when they are able to control technology, or as in this case, where there's limited technology available. And so it is surprising that it's been 5 days and we've really have no more information than we had on day one. But at the same time, when you deal with isolated areas with a lack of technology, and then whatever technology she did have in her home was taken control of by the culprits. You know, it's frustrating, and it's one of those things where I'm thankful to live in a big city like Houston. You wouldn't get far from my house before they'd have you on a camera somewhere 1 block away, 2 blocks away, etc. But out in the middle of Arizona, I think it's a different story. So it's very frustrating, I'm sure.
Yeah, you know, we're coming off of the Tepe case, which is, you know, same time of day, 2 o'clock in the morning, but there were cameras everywhere picking up the vehicle, picking up the suspect, and it seems like they were working very quickly towards getting someone. I don't get that feeling here, Lori. I know they're doing everything that they should be doing, but I don't get the feeling like they're moving at the same pace, getting closer like they were in Columbus.
No, and I know it's got to be frustrating to this family, because truly the one thing that they could have done that would have really helped in this case would be to have the account behind that Ring doorbell camera. So if you have that account, those videos are saved to the Ring database, online to their cloud. So they would have been able to access them, but they didn't have the account set up. And, you know, we talked about whether whatever it picked up on the camera was actually a person. The Ring camera is very good at distinguishing between an object, an animal, or a person. So I firmly believe it was a person on that camera. But, you know, to the point what Carmen said, these houses are very spaced out. So there are no cameras. They're back behind, you know, some trees. There's a long driveway here. So it would be difficult for any of the neighbors to actually find anything. It's an incredibly difficult investigation for them. I don't know that they have any leads, and I'm sure that that's frustrating for not only this family, but also for the police themselves. It's got to be incredibly difficult for them.
Absolutely. Let's head out right now to Scripps News Group reporter Ashley Holden, who's joined us live from outside Nancy Guthrie's home in Tucson, Arizona. Ashley, thanks so much for coming on. So what's going on tonight out at the scene?
Not surprise us to see him come out here in the coming days as
yeah, well, if you were following this yesterday, you know that we had federal agents, we had deputies that were back out here at Nancy Guthrie's house, crime scene tape back up, and there looked like there were searches going on as well. We were told to expect law enforcement to be back out here. We only saw one deputy car pull up maybe for about 5 minutes and then leave. I do want to let you know, kind of an interesting development in the last hour was we saw a neighbor who walked up and thought she would find detectives here, and she was trying to talk to them. She wouldn't share what it was she wanted to talk to them about, but she said that she had thought of some things, wanted to share those things with detectives, and she is obviously encouraging anyone with information to also come forward. So we have a community here that is very much watching, thinking so much of the Guthrie family and Nancy Guthrie, and hoping for her safe return.
Yeah, it could be any little piece of information like that that could make a huge difference in all this. There was a huge press conference today with the sheriff. I'm interested, Ashley, what was your takeaway from that?
Well, one of the big takeaways that I heard was we have been out here at Nancy Guthrie's home, and we actually heard, you know, that the home had been released to the family. Anyone could kind of walk on up, and we saw a red substance on Nancy Guthrie's front steps, kind of. And we had been asking about that substance. Could they confirm it was blood? Whose blood was it? We didn't know. Well, today we were finally able to confirm that was blood, and it was Nancy's own blood. Take a listen. We have some sound.
Blood on the porch, that was one we did. It came back to Nancy.
And we know that that was fast-tracked DNA testing, and there's more DNA testing that we were told is taking place. I also want to let you know, so many people were talking about camera footage and maybe a doorbell camera missing, and we saw a new timeline that doorbell camera had been disconnected around 1:45 a.m. I asked the sheriff if he thinks that camera was actually taken. What happened to it? And he said, well, right now they don't have it, and they have not been able to locate it. And that's all he would really say about that. But obviously, one of those questions that really remains here, as it sounds like they won't be getting camera footage from Nancy Guthrie's home due to, of course, the fact that it sounds like she didn't have a subscription with her provider.
And finally, Ashley, have you heard anything from the family?
Yeah, actually, a video was posted right at 5 p.m. and it was from Savannah Guthrie's brother. It was posted, though, to Savannah's Instagram page, and it was him kind of making a call out to this alleged unknown abductor, asking for communication. And it was a similar but shorter message to what we saw the Guthrie siblings post on Wednesday night. So another video right at 5, and I point that time out because we've talked a lot about these alleged ransom notes that our Scripps station, even here in Tucson, actually received. And authorities told us today that there were multiple deadlines listed, and one of those was 5 p.m. today. And so right at 5, we got that video from Savannah Guthrie's brother, of course, Nancy Guthrie's son, asking for communication. We know there is a second deadline, and we're told that that is Monday. The FBI really wouldn't comment further on those deadlines, but so many developments, and we continue to get kind of these messages from the family, these call outs to hopefully get communication. And we know from the FBI, they told us that they had not received proof of life, and that seems like what they are asking for in these videos.
Yeah, that's crucial. That is crucial. Ashley Holden, Scripps News Group, great work. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, folks, when we come back, we'll take a closer look at these ransom notes and an arrest related to one of them today, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, we continue our investigation of the abduction of Nancy Guthrie with our own FBI investigator. What exactly is the FBI doing right now to help find Nancy? Tonight, we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
The disappearance of Nancy Guthrie.
Here on the ground in Tucson, there have been thousands of leads.
Everyone is looking for you, Mommy.
Where is Nancy Guthrie? A Court TV and Scripps News special report. Friday night at 8/7 Central on Court TV.
We are aware of a ransom letter that was sent to the local media and then to national outlets. As with every lead, we are taking it seriously. We are in communication with the family, and while we advise and recommend from a law enforcement perspective, any action taken on any ransom is ultimately decided by the family.
And not all of the details of the ransom letters have been made public, and you don't want to because you want to keep some of that information back, and I think the media was pretty responsible in keeping some of that information back in order to not have other people send letters and make it even more confusing as they know more of this so-called inside information. That would be one way to verify that these folks really are involved. So, as I've been saying, this has taken quite a toll on Nancy's family, her 3 children specifically, Savannah, Annie, and their brother. Let's take a look at the Instagram statement that was released last night. And I want you to watch it because all 3 children take an opportunity to speak throughout this. And as you watch it, imagine what they've gone through first of all, and then think about, you know, what are you going to say? And what can you possibly say to someone who may be holding your mother hostage?
On behalf of our family, we want to thank all of you for the prayers for our beloved mom, Nancy. We feel them, and we continue to believe that she feels them too. Our mom is a kind, faithful, loyal, fiercely loving woman of goodness and light. She's funny, spunky, and clever. She has grandchildren that adore her and crowd around her and cover her with kisses. She loves fun and adventure. She is a devoted friend. She is full of kindness and knowledge. Talk to her and you'll see.
The light is missing from our lives. Nancy is our mother. We are her children. She is our beacon. She holds fast to joy in all of life's circumstances. She chooses joy day after day, despite having already passed through great trials of pain and grief. We are always going to be merely human, just normal human people who need our mom. Mama, if you're listening, we need you to come home. We miss you.
Our mom is our heart and our home. She is 84 years old. Her health, her heart is fragile. She lives in constant pain. She is without any medicine. She needs it to survive. She needs it not to suffer. We too have heard the reports about a ransom letter in the media. As a family, we are doing everything that we can. We are ready to talk. However, we live in a world where voices and images are easily manipulated. We need to know, without a doubt, that she is alive and that you have her. We want to hear from you, and we are ready to listen. Please reach out to us. Mommy, if you are hearing this, you are a strong woman. You are God's precious daughter, Nancy. We believe and know that even in this valley, He is with you. Everyone is looking for you, Mommy, everywhere. We will not rest. Your children will not rest until we are together again. We speak to you every moment, and we pray without ceasing, and we rejoice in advance for the day that we hold you in our arms again. We love you, Mom.
Love you, Mom.
We love you, Mom. Stay strong.
We love you, Mom. We love you.
Still with me, Carmen Rowe, Lori Murray, Ali Benevento. Ali, you can feel it, you can see it. There's desperation. I think they're literally not sleeping through all of this. And what struck me was, they said, we've heard about the ransom notes as well. Again, it comes back to, they never got the notes themselves. There was a 5 o'clock deadline today, yet no contact.
Yeah, you can hear the pain, you can see the pain. I can't say it enough. I feel for this family. You can sense the desperation in their voices. You can hear them trying to humanize her, trying to appeal to whoever has her, to see the humanity in her, so that hopefully they will reach out to this family. I have no doubt that this pain that they're feeling is something that is going to energize them, hopefully throughout them not sleeping. This pain is actually going to be the thing that keeps them going in their search for their mom. And thankfully, Savannah's notoriety, her fame, has the entire country watching this case, has people paying attention. And it's my hope that law enforcement will be able to kind of tap into the resource that is, and hear from people, so that hopefully we will get some information about where sweet Miss Nancy is, and that this family can get some peace and some sleep. And
I think that if the ransom note is legitimate, that's the best opportunity for her to come back, because if it isn't, then something really terrible may have already happened. Take a listen here to Heath Janke. He's the special agent in charge from the FBI in Phoenix.
To those imposters who are trying to take advantage and profit from this situation, we will investigate and ensure you are held accountable for your actions. We have made one arrest related to an imposter ransom demand, and a complaint will be presented to a magistrate judge later today. You will get more on that from the FBI and our U.S.
And I think this is important because they've caught one imposter already. His name is Derek Colella. On or about February 4th, shortly after the Instagram video was published, Annie Guthrie and Tommaso Cioni, the daughter and son-in-law of Nancy, both separately received a text message stating, "Did you get the Bitcoin we're waiting on our end for the transaction?" Law enforcement then traced the number to an email and IP address for Derek Colella in California. They say Colella admitted to sending the 2 text messages. He admitted to using the VoIP account from which 2 actual text messages came from. He stated that he pulled family information from a cyber website and that he had been following along and watching on TV. When he said that he sent text messages, he was trying to see if the family would respond. Data received shows that approximately 3 minutes after the text messages, Colella called a family member of Nancy Guthrie that lasted 9 seconds. This is key. The 2 text messages have not been linked to the February 2nd, 2026 ransom demand. Also, one more piece. Law enforcement arrived and determined that Nancy Guthrie had left basic essentials inside her home. This is from the criminal complaint against the imposter, including her wallet, car, cell phone, hearing aid, and medication. We did not know about that hearing aid. That is a new piece of information. But what is important to me here, Lori, is that a fake imposter ransom demand was tracked down. And the fact that they're not saying that about the media letters yet gives me some hope that this is, in fact, a kidnapping for money, and Nancy may have an opportunity to be returned home safely.
Well, yeah. And, what's interesting to me about this are 2 things. First of all, a tragedy like this will bring out the best in people and the worst in people. And so you're seeing a little bit of both right now. That's obviously the worst in someone that could take someone's tragedy and try to use it for financial gain. Awful. But the second part of this is, this ransom or these kidnappers, why would you take her if it's not for a ransom? But in their minds, and I'm just putting myself in their shoes, aren't they thinking, how do I get in touch with her and also keep myself safe from arrest? Because if we go directly to her, they're going to trace everything, and they're so good at tracing now. So I think that maybe that's part of why they're not reaching directly to the family. But at the same time, this family is not going to give up millions of dollars unless they do. So it's kind of a catch-22 for everybody involved here. But it is a real shame that people will use this to try to get something financially out of it with a grieving family. It's just a horrible thing.
Sure. And Carmen, the fact that law enforcement tracked down the imposter ransom note and have not tracked down the ones associated with the media letters, what does that tell you?
Well, it tells me that we're dealing with somebody who's much more sophisticated than the person who admitted as soon as he was caught quickly after sending text messages directly to the family. But you know what I think is so interesting about this is, generally speaking, if a person, an elderly woman goes missing in a small town, we don't get this kind of media attention. We don't get this kind of immediate response from law enforcement, the FBI, et cetera. And I'm taken by the fact that I recently started watching The Morning Show, which features Jennifer Aniston playing Savannah Guthrie, and includes a lot of controversial things around her, but also importantly, how much money they make as anchors for NBC. And I think it's $8-10 million a year. And it strikes me that no one's really talking about that, but that may be part of why we're seeing this happen at all. Maybe that's a motive or at least part of it. And then two, why we're seeing so much media attention. I mean, this case has been covered since the day it occurred. And I mean, every single day, #1 story across the country. And it's just fascinating to think about that combination with a show that's been on for, I think, 4 seasons on Apple TV for everyone to watch and get a little bit closer to Savannah, her family, even though in a fictional way, but believing that maybe some of that's true.
Could be all part of the picture. All right, before we take a break, we have a programming note. Friday night, a Court TV Scripps News special. Inside the desperate search for Today's Show host Savannah Guthrie's beloved mother, Nancy. A live special report from Court TV and Scripps News. Join Court TV, me, and Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas, who will be live in Tucson, Arizona, Friday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, right here on Court TV. When we come back, let's talk about what happened to that doorbell camera video.
At this time, we have not identified a suspect or a person of interest in this case. We are working our best to do that. But to be clear, we have nobody of interest or any suspects that you would consider a prime suspect. We're just not there. We're not there yet.
No suspects, no person of interest. Obviously, there's been some reporting that there was, but they're saying there wasn't. And the sheriff being very clear in his language about that. Now, there's another issue here that I think we should talk about right now. Let's take a listen to the sheriff talking again about this doorbell camera.
Sunday morning, early morning at 1:47 a.m., the doorbell camera disconnects. At 2:12 a.m., software detects a person on a camera, but there's no video available. They had no subscription, and therefore it would rewrite itself, it just kind of loops, right, and covers up. That's what our analysis teams have told us. We're not done with that. We'll do all we can, but that's what it says. So that detects a person on camera. Could that be an animal? I imagine that's possible. We don't know that. We just have no video. But we're not giving up on that.
Let's bring back in Carmen Rowe, Lori Murray, Ali Benevento. Lori, does the person have to know that they don't have a subscription? Because whoever disconnected the camera, and the camera's apparently gone, right? That's what Ashley Holden reported to us, that they don't know where the camera is. So whoever did this grabbed the camera and took it, but at some point that person or a person was on camera, and they'd likely be caught now and identified, but there's no subscription. Does someone have to have inside information here about that?
Listen, it's really hard to conceive that somebody could be so sophisticated as to pull this off, but also so unsophisticated as to not understand that video would go to the cloud. So that tells me that they knew that she didn't have a subscription, because they pulling the camera off the door frame right there, that's the bracket for it right there, but pulling the camera itself off would normally do no good because the video goes to the cloud. But they or somebody had to have known. And honestly, pulling the doorbell off wouldn't do anything because it's not like it stores in the doorbell itself, so it makes no sense really one way or the other.
Yeah, the only thing that I guess pulling it off the door does, Carmen, is prevent any more recording, right? If you're taking someone out the front door, now there won't be video of that you have to worry about, right? It's gone. There'll be no more video, except something happened at 212, probably a mistake, but they took it. Like, to me, this really screams inside information. Someone who knows something about this family, just to get to the house in the middle of the dark, knowing that she lives alone. Like,
Vinnie, I totally agree. And exactly what Lori said is true. It's like either that or this is the luckiest criminal we've ever seen. But the truth is it seems like when you hear facts like this, that they knew that she got home that night, that she's normally in bed by herself, that she lives alone, that she has a camera, a Ring camera, but it's not going to the cloud, that the inside camera's also not available for recording. I mean, there's a number of things, not just that, but the leaving of certain items in the home that we've gone over throughout this show, including her phone, things like that suggest some level of knowledge of Nancy that goes beyond what a stranger would be thinking to do in those critical moments. So, yeah, I think an inside job is what it looks like, but, it's just so hard to tell. But I think the Ring camera could have been huge. As we see in a lot of cases, it provides invaluable information, even when it's destroyed.
Yeah, and Allie, when you talk about inside information, it could be anyone that's in her life or at her house or has access to her. I don't know what sort of people help with her, whether she has nurses' aides or cleaning people or any sort of vendor that she would need, that maybe, some of the information could come out casually in a conversation. I don't know, but it seems like they've got to look at anyone and everyone who's ever been to that house and perhaps on a regular basis.
Absolutely. This is not, as you can see from the footage here, this is not a busy neighborhood. This is not a retirement community. There aren't houses very close together. It's quite possible that you probably can't hear anything. I don't know where the closest next door neighbor is, but I agree with everyone here on the panel today that this is probably someone who had been either watching Nancy for quite some time, had some information about her patterns and her habits. This was something someone thought about, planned. And I agree that the reason for removing that camera, although it's puzzling to us because removing the camera doesn't do any good, but to the point about the blood on the front steps, I agree. I think it was Carmen that mentioned they wanted to stop the recording of whatever was about to happen next. And it does appear, at least from the droplets of blood, that perhaps Miss Nancy was taken out of the front door. And so, just tragic all around. But I agree that it's probably someone who, at the very least, knew her patterns and her practices, knew exactly where to find her, and did their best to cover this up. And I think it speaks volumes that this is the mother of one of the most famous people in America, all of these resources, the eyes of the country on this case, and still 5 days in, we are really no closer to finding out answers. That's what makes this so heartbreaking. Imagine all the people who don't have that attention.
Big thanks, Carmen Rowe, Lori Murray, Ali Benevento. Have a great week. Thank you so much. When we come back, I will reveal something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, we continue our in-depth coverage into the abduction of Nancy Guthrie. We take you to the neighborhood, driving through the darkness. Is there any way this crime was not targeted? Tonight, we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
I'm Vinnie Politan. Welcome to Closing Arguments.
What's happening here?
It's unreal. Let me show you exactly what happened.
Closing Arguments with Vinnie Politan, weeknights at 8, 7 Central, only on Court TV.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. Pulls out of the Olympics. We're talking about Savannah Guthrie, obviously will not be covering with her mother disappeared, but also her co-anchor, Craig Melvin, who was supposed to do coverage of the Olympics overseas, is going to remain stateside while his good friend and on-air partner, Savannah's mom, is still missing. Obviously, this story impacting all the folks around the country, but especially at NBC and over at the Today Show. Right now, folks, please take a look at your television screens. We have a missing child who needs your help. This is Selena Angel Marie Cruz. Selena, just 14 years old. Take a look at that face. If you see Selena, please pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference. 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Lubbock Police Department in Texas, the Lubbock, Texas Police Department. That number's on your screen right now. Let's see if we can get Selena to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere with another hour of live true crime and our full in-depth coverage of the disappearance and abduction of Nancy Guthrie. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.